Welcome back to Devil May Cry. Last time we got on this ghost ship thing, as well as defeated Griffon for the second time. Maybe we'll have a third boss fight with him, possibly in this part, I don't know. They do like reusing those boss fights. Anyway, we need to grab a certain item from within the ship here. This Staff of Hermes, which we actually saw a symbol that looked very much like it in a different area, one that had to do with a lot of platforming. I'll leave what it is as a surprise for now. But after grabbing the staff, the room floods for some reason. We'll actually get an outside view in a sec that shows that the ship is actually sinking. I guess Griffon did a bit too much of a number on the ship while we were fighting. But this mission, we have to use underwater controls to try and escape the ship. And I didn't really talk about it before, but since we have the needle gun, I can get a bit more into it. You can shoot and kill things while underwater. Basically, all you gotta do is press the lock-on button while an enemy is in the center of your screen, pretty much. And then press the shoot button and you'll be able to shoot shots from your needle gun. Of course, as all the guns do, they have unlimited ammo. I don't think you can double trigger down here. You might be able to. I don't quite recall. There just isn't a reason for me to. And unlike the first underwater section that we went to, that was actually kind of cool and fun. You know, the one where we had to defeat all the skulls and you know, your punishment for not getting across the bridge where your health was going down constantly. This time your health actually doesn't go down constantly. You can breathe underwater for as long as you want. There's no repercussion other than the game not being the game, I guess. I never minded this underwater section. I don't like it as much as, you know, the actual fighting and stuff. But it's not very long. Like, I think that's the last one in the game. We don't have to deal with it for the entirety of the rest of it, so everything's fine. And I got another S rank, although... Wait, that was my first S rank. Never mind. I think the amount of orbs I got was actually less than usual. For some reason, I thought you'd get 2,000, but it gave me 1,500. Well, it's still a substantial amount of orbs anyway, so whatever. And again, we did not get a mission start screen for this one. Instead, we just have to take down some enemies in order to get past, and then... Well, we don't actually have to take them down. We can just avoid them. But since we're not in the middle of a mission, there's no time limit on us. We can kill them for the orbs, even though they only drop, like... I don't know, 2 through 10 orbs, which isn't very much. We need to head back to that Coliseum that we were in earlier, and I'm very close to getting air hike. I think, well, not I think, but we're going to be able to get it pretty soon, but I want to buy up the orbs first before I start buying up, before I try and save up to get to air hike. Basically, I'm going to be getting air hike when I accidentally get to 4,000, as in I don't buy anything for so long that I kind of forget to buy things, and I'm like, oh, now I have enough for air hike. I'm gonna buy air hike. It's not really a necessary move, to be honest. It's just nice to have. And like the Devil Trigger specific moves for Alastor, being different from the Devil Trigger specific moves for Ifrit, Alastor is the only weapon that can use the air hike. If you switch to Ifrit, you suddenly can't use it anymore. And I think that's also the same for Force Edge. Despite still being a sword weapon, you can't use air hike with it, which is pretty dang lame. That's actually something I don't like. That Devil May Cry 2 and 4 fix this. 3 does not, but air hike isn't tied to your weapons in those games. It's more like it's Dante's ability. So if you switch weapons, you don't have to... Well, you don't have to go for a while without being able to use air hike, is the point that I'm trying to get across here. It would have been pretty useful for this section because there's some exploring to do around here. Of course, when there's a waterfall in video games, you obviously must check near it. There must be things near there. And in this case, there's not really anything behind the waterfall, but there is something within the waterfall, an item. This is holy water. I think this is the first time we've actually gotten one, so I'll explain what it does. It's basically a sort of screen nuke kind of item. If you use it when there are enemies around, then Dante will kind of let loose a big shockwave around him that will do some decent damage to the enemies around, possibly kill them. And I'm gonna be heading up this side of a mountain, I guess. I don't even know. Malay Island's geography is really crazy, but there's a gold orb up here. Wait, is this gold or yellow? It's yellow. Gold is actually different, and not in this game. But if you stinger off there, you can jump to find a blue orb fragment as well, which thank goodness I found at that point because I really got skewered by those spikes earlier. And now my health has been refilled as well as extended. And I still don't remember the names of these enemies, but there's a bigger version now. It's darker than the other versions and of course is gonna take more damage than the others. But because I have all this devil trigger to spend, I can get stylish rank against these guys by just spamming the square button, and now I get a cool trophy for it. At least I think that I do. I used to think that you need to actually like finish the battle with a S rank. That's not true. You just have to get to the S rank tier with Ifrit or Alastor in order to get that trophy. So if you get an S rank and then lose it, you're fine. There's something else around here. Well, two other things. First, another one of these bird statues that if you slash at it a ton of times, that will give you a bunch of orbs. I'm not sure if hitting it with Ifrit actually gives you more orbs. Like if it gives you more for hitting it a bunch, or if it gives you more for hitting it with strong attacks. But there's a blue orb fragment around here that I want to get to that I wasn't exactly sure how to. At least, you know, initially I wasn't very sure how to. It's actually quite easy though. All I have to do is stinger off this ledge. Well, maybe not this ledge specifically. Well, actually it doesn't require any stingering at all, it looks like. You could just double jump up to the ledge here, grab onto it, and you're good. Bob's your uncle and all that. Now that we have it, I think that's everything in this area, so we can continue on and pay another bunch of orbs in order to get through this door. That's still an annoying thing to me, having to pay the currency that I use to upgrade my items in order to get through some doors. Luckily, there's some sword fodder here for me to kill in order to get a bunch of those orbs back. Although it's still, you know, I gave the door free orbs, the door should give me some free orbs. Or maybe have like some of those switches around, I guess. The ones that you have to hit a bunch in order to activate them. Oh, I kind of lost out on that green orb that was hanging there. That kind of sucked. But there's not actually a lot of those switches in this game, I noticed. The other games actually have them quite a bit more for some reason. It's not like they're very difficult to deal with, I guess, so they decided, we don't really need to put a lot of them here. It's not really a challenge or anything like that, so we could just leave it as is. And that was not me pressing the map button on purpose. That was actually by accident. I said this in Plague of Shadows, but my controller started getting even wonkier. And the left trigger, L2, is the map button in this game. You can also press start and then like scroll through the start menu to bring the map up. But because they have it set to a hotkey and my controller is getting wonkier by the second, there might be some cases where I accidentally press the map button when I was intending to do something else, like stinger toward an enemy or, I don't know, switch weapons maybe. Again, second door in a row that requires some red orbs, but it costs a little less than previously. It only costs 100 to get through. Still though, pretty dang lame. And I think, no, it's not this room. There's a room that we're going to be seeing that has something kind of odd in it. I'll just leave it at that to leave the intrigue going on. And I'm down to a B. And for some reason, again, I got 50 less than usual. Well, I mean, with the S rank, I got 500 less than usual, which is really lame. But still, I'm getting less orbs than I should be getting. Now we're back in the Coliseum, and because I think we got that shield, it might have been, we can do something with those emblem shields that are in the room. But first, I'm gonna have to deal with these enemies here because, one, they'll probably annoy me later if I don't, and two, they have red orbs, and I want some red orbs. I just spent 300. I mean, I got like maybe 150 back, but still. And you might have seen me just do it there. There's something in this game that they don't really tell you about, at least I don't recall anyone telling you about it, or anything telling me about it, rather. You can jump off of enemies' heads in this game. So, like, say you're jumping near an enemy, and you don't have the air hike ability, but you want to get some extra height, stand near their head, or at least jump forward so that the end of your jump kind of makes you end up at their head. And then, if you press the jump button again, you'll jump off of their heads. Which can be useful for, I guess, combos, or dealing with some enemies. Like, say an enemy's really big, like these larger versions of the enemies around here. You can jump on, basically on their heads, and then perform a helm splitter, or the dive kick with helm breaker. I keep calling it helm splitter. You'll perform a helm breaker or the dive kick with the Ifrit, and then after performing that move, jump off of their head to cancel out of it, and then press the button again to perform the move again. I don't really use that technique in this game. It's more something people use in the later Devil May Cry games like 3 and 4. This game it's not all that useful. Really just dodge canceling your grenade shots is the best bet. Well, at least for now it is. Later on it's going to become a bit obsolete due to another gun that we're going to be getting. We are going to be getting another gun in this part, by the way. After dealing with all of these enemies, there's just so many of them. This is actually a lot more fighting than I'm used to in this game. This is just too much. Maybe switching to Ifrit could have been a good choice. These enemies are kind of plant-like, at least plant-looking. So maybe Ifrit could do more damage against them. I don't know all the enemy weaknesses and stuff in this game, so I don't know like what weapons are especially useful. I just know that Griffon is electric, so I'm not going to use Alastor on him. And if we ever were to fight Phantom again, which you can do in the sort of New Game Plus of this game, using Ifrit probably wouldn't be your best bet, because Phantom and Ifrit are both fire-based. I guess I can kind of go into New Game Plus a little bit for now. New Game Plus is essentially playing on a harder difficulty. So, to beat the last mission of the game, you just load your file after saving it, and you'll start at mission 1 of the game, well, right before mission 1, where you're heading into Malay Island, and you'll be able to fight all the enemies all over again. Some setups are changed, enemy formations rather, and the blue orbs you collected are blue orb fragments rather that you collected are replaced with gold orbs, and of course enemies hit harder. I think they have a bit more health than in the previous run, but you also have your weapons and stuff. You have all your guns, you have your Alastor and Ifrit, so a bit harder until you actually get to the point where you have Ifrit, then, or a bit easier until you get to the point where you get Ifrit, and then everything's just hard. In this room, we have a bunch of switches that we can flick or slash at in order to create some platforms for us on the other side, which is very convenient, because if we weren't able to create those platforms, we'd actually end up in a pit with, I think, some enemies. In this little side room, there's a platform that if you stand on it, you'll actually regain your devil trigger. So I'm at max pretty much now. I'm going to just use it for a bit to show off that it does refill it for you, which is pretty neat. I don't think there's any, well, at least from what I recall, in the other Devil May Cry games, there aren't any platforms like that that refill your devil trigger for you. The only way to fill it is, well, the only ways to fill it are non-environmental. You kill enemies, you taunt. I guess getting hit by enemies also increases it sometimes. But now we have the pair of lances, which are required for that door in the middle of the Colosseum. It's not really the middle. It's in between the doors that have the shields on them. And we can just progress with the story and go straight through that, essentially that door we just unlocked. But I want to do some extra stuff, and in doing so make this mission a lot longer than it actually needs to be. That is the Devil May Cry dilemma. They have this ranking system in pretty much every game. Every time I say something, just imagine I'm saying I haven't played 2 enough yet to know this. But there's the ranking system, and it ranks you on how fast you get through stages, or missions rather, and how many orbs you get. In every game, those are 2 categories every time. And they're such counterintuitive categories. Like, getting orbs, for the most part, requires you to explore and break some objects that, you know, take time to destroy. But because you're getting more orbs by destroying objects that you don't have to, you're at the same time extending your time limit, which will make you have a lower score. So it's like, do I get more orbs? Do I just proceed on with the stage in order to get the in order to get the extra orbs for having a good rank? I guess rank probably would be the better option in this game, because S ranks give you so many orbs compared to how many you get in stages. Like, really long stages can get you over 1,000 orbs, but they're pretty few and far between. Whereas doing a bunch of short stages and getting like A's and S's could also easily get you like thousands of orbs. And apparently it's nighttime now in this Colosseum area. So the Sin Scythes, I don't think this is our first encounter with them. We've seen them before in their scythe form, but the Sin Scythes have come out to play. Same strategy as usual, just jump toward them, shoot them in the face, that'll kind of knock them back a bit. Jump toward them again, shoot them again, and they'll die. And give you a bunch of orbs. So pretty lucrative enemies. And we went through the side with the red light, so now we'll go through the side with this blue light. And I don't think that the first one you go through is always going to be that same challenge. Like, how should I put this? I think it's the red one always has that challenge in the red room, because there is a bit of a different challenge in this room. And the blue one always has the challenge that's going to be in the blue room. And the reward is also going to be the same for each room. So like the red one has a pair of lances, and this one has something optional and a bit special. But first, of course, I need to break down this wall so that I can get whatever's behind these barrels in this room. Some health, some extra orbs, maybe a gold orb or a blue orb fragment or something like that. Yeah, blue orb fragment. And I thought that little like pot on the ground was actually holy water or something like that. But no, it's just there for decoration and very unfitting for this area. It just doesn't look like it belongs. And there's sin scythes here in this very cramped starting area. Get to the conveyor belts with the spikes before actually trying to face these guys off, because it is not easy to try and kill these guys in that very small corridor where your shotgun shots are basically going to be in the wall rather than in the enemy's heads. And that does sound brutal, but you actually do need to shoot them in the heads. The body doesn't take any damage. Here's another one of these platforms with the refilling devil trigger. I guess the reason that that's there is so that you don't have to do any platforming in this bit right here, because if you fail at the platforming, you'll fall into that poison stuff and take some damage. But if you have Alastor's air raid unlocked, instead of doing the platforming, you could just fly over and then refill your devil trigger when you need to. And now we have the Nightmare Beta. This is the last gun in this game, as I recall. We might be getting a trophy for that very soon. Maybe. Huh. I guess... Oh, I think I actually... Oh, never mind. I did get the trophy. There is a point... I think it might have been in the next episode where I do get interrupted and I miss out on a trophy because of it. Like I had to redo the mission and stuff. But the Nightmare Beta, obviously the second of Nightmares, or maybe the first, rather. You know what? There's probably not even... There could be more. Anyway, it's a demon gun. In these games, that's another staple. There's the sword, there's the punchy kicky thing, there's the shotguns, the handguns, and the demon guns. And this demon gun takes up your devil trigger when you use it. I think it takes up about 1 rune to shoot a shot, but the shots are kind of powerful. I'll show it off in a later mission. In fact, in the next part I'm going to be showing it off, but for now I'm going to stick to the shotgun because, well, the enemies here are susceptible to the shotgun. And I'm going to be, I guess, grinding a little bit on these other scythe enemies so that I may get some extra orbs. There's only 4 of them in this area, so it won't take very long. But what I was trying to say about the Nightmare Beta was that it's called the Nightmare Beta, which means there must be an alpha version of it somewhere in this game. We might be seeing that later. In fact, we're definitely seeing that later. I'm just trying to keep up the suspense. For now, though, we head into this Coliseum where I know what's going to happen, so I need to switch to my handguns. Due to a certain enemy that we faced off with before that we might be facing off with for the final time. And now that I've equipped Ifrit, you probably really do know who the enemy is going to be. According to whatever voice is speaking into Dante's mind, this Colosseum here needs a sacrifice in order for Dante to proceed. Without that sacrifice, then we're just kind of stuck in this Colosseum doing nothing. And Griffon has returned. This time a bit more powerful, I guess. He has some new tricks up his sleeve. He stays on the ground a lot more for this first phase of the boss fight. There are actually multiple phases, but the same method that I used on the ship applies here, using ebony and ivory with the Devil Trigger charge up power stuff. Really does a number on the guy. And well, getting a good look at his face, it's actually made up of like a bunch of birds' faces, which is pretty cool, I guess. He's now permanently on the ground. We've actually clipped his left wing. And you can see there's blood splurting out of it and stuff. So now he's gonna fight on the ground totally. Which may or may not be a good thing, depending on, I guess, how you like to fight him. If you want to go more gung-ho and run into him and keep dive kicking at him, I guess him being on the ground is a pretty good thing. However, if you want to stay away from him and shoot him from a distance, then his constant attempts to close the distance are pretty bad. He still takes a good amount of damage from the powered up shots of Ebony and Ivory though, and he has this new move where he'll shoot out pillars of lightning rather than, well, not really pillars. He'll shoot out vertical lines of lightning rather than horizontal, which makes them a bit harder to dodge. You can't just jump over them, or rather stay underneath them if they're aiming high. You need to actually time your dodges, unlike I'm doing here, because the dodges do contain invincibility frames. You can time your dodges, or you can just kind of squeeze in between the shots, which is what I kind of did there and what I'm doing right here. Well, I just got hit by that last one, but squeezing in between them means that you can shoot more, but dodging them means that you have a better chance of not getting hit, essentially. But this boss fight really isn't hard. My first time playing it, it took me 2 tries, I think. But this was the first take, and it was really quite easy trying to take on this boss. He's really almost dead. All I need is a little bit more Devil Trigger, which I have, and he's done. Devil Trigger cannot activate with just 2 runes, by the way. I don't know if I said that before. You need to have 3 runes filled in order for you to actually be able to activate Devil Trigger. If you don't, then you're not going to be able to. And with that, we get the trophy plucked for finally defeating Griffon for the last time. You know it's the last time because with Phantom, we had those chase sequences where you could fight him, but it didn't really count. And with Griffon, we had, I guess, the boat scene that didn't count. So with this final fight, Griffon finally dies. And I like Dante in this scene. He's, you know, when he's talked to other bosses and had his cheesy lines like flock off, bird brain, stuff like that. He's a pretty chill guy, you know? But when things get serious, he does kind of know when to stop, I guess. Like he didn't kill Griffon here. He might have clipped one of his wings, but then he stopped fighting. He was like, dude, you're wounded. I'm not gonna fight you anymore. You shouldn't try to fight me anymore. But Mundus, being the douche that he is, instead decides to kill Griffon for us. And Dante's pretty distraught about that, grasping at his half of the, well, that's actually kind of spoilers. His pendant, I'll say.
His heinous ways make me sick.
And he kind of goes on a bit of a preachy rant here, which is a bit odd. Well, not odd, jarring, considering the other games in this series where he really does not get as serious as this at any other point. Well, maybe in Devil May Cry 2, but a lot of people say that in that game it's more grumpy than serious. I wouldn't know. I haven't played it as that much, so I can't really make that fair of an assessment. But now that we're down here, we get this wheel of Yeah, Wheel of Destiny. I was going to call it the Wheel of Fortune for a second there. But that mission was really dang long. So, that's the end of this part. Next time we'll actually use this Wheel of Destiny for something.